Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and this is my husband Drew. And on this channel, we talk about life and relationships after leaving the church, and we do some commentary on the goings on in evangelical Christianity. Have you heard about RaptureTok?
I have, because you were doing research for this video.
Yeah.
I surprisingly had not otherwise.
Oh, really?
No.
It's kind of like everywhere, and like tons of people on YouTube are making videos about it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of surprised you haven't heard about it. But yeah, there are a few evangelical Christians that have gone to TikTok to warn everyone of the impending rapture. And if you guys are unfamiliar with what the rapture is, it is this belief that any day now, Christians are going to be taken up to heaven with Jesus before a period of like 7 years of tribulation. And this is a belief that's very common among evangelical Christians. And Christians have been predicting the rapture for forever. But this time they were predicting that it was going to be on September 23rd or 24th. And today, as we're filming, it's the 27th. So clearly they were wrong about that. But maybe they weren't, and we'll circle back to that later in the video. Okay, so we're going to look at what some Christian TikTokers were saying leading up to the supposed rapture. And these videos really run the gamut from people sharing rapture tips, looking for additional signs of the rapture, and some people having full-on mental breakdowns. So we're going to check out some of those videos.
Okay. Rapture trip tips. I recommend you go out and buy a couple fresh packs of undies to wear for the next month. Throw all the old underwear away. Imagine after you've been harpazoed, your clothes float back down. You don't want someone's last impression of you to be your old underwear. Paul should have said, may your whole body, soul, and spirit and underwear be without blemish until the coming of the Lord.
This lady's completely serious.
Okay, why would you care what random people on earth think about your underwear if you're in heaven?
That was my first thought. I was like, why would you be concerned about that? You're in heaven now. You're with Jesus. Shouldn't the cares of the world kind of fall away at that point?
Yeah.
I don't know why you would be very concerned about that. But this lady, she made a bunch of different like rapture trip tips, and she was 100% serious. And ever since the rapture didn't happen, she's privated her or deleted her account completely.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I think she's a little bit embarrassed.
So yesterday I posted a video asking what are we doing to prepare our homes as Christians for the people who are left behind. And so just today I kind of made a little list of like what I could think of. If anybody else has anything that they're specifically doing in their house, please let me know. Obviously, clean my house and this and that, but my house is never truly clean because I have a toddler. But this is the things that I've kind of come up with. So, like, here's my little list. And then I went ahead and did these, and I laminated them. And then I did, like, scriptures that, like, I don't know, kind of elaborate a little bit about what Christianity is and how important it is. And then I did a letter to people, and I'm going to leave it. I don't know what I'm going to do with most of this stuff. But I mean, I'm trying my best. I'm trying my very best. I've never been through this. I just want people to have as much preparation as they can. I'm going to go to the store today and stock up on Bibles and some other things like candles, because I think that there's not going to be any power. I don't know. If there is, cool. If there's not, at least we've got that covered. So anyways, let me know in the comments if you're doing something and add it to my list.
Well, instead of preparing for the rapture, I was spending my time, actually reading the book of Revelation and understanding what biblical scholars actually think about it, outside of like a tiny minority of people who, not even a majority of evangelicals necessarily are like super hardcore about the rapture. Like, the idea that the rapture is even a thing is something that was essentially invented like less than 150 years ago.
Yeah, it is like a pretty recent thing. I mean, watching this, I actually don't mind this TikTok as much as some of the other Rapture ones, because it does kind of show me that she at least has some semblance of empathy, which I can't say for a lot of evangelical Christians, because at least she's like thinking about other people and how she can care for non-Christians that aren't going to be raptured. At least there's that.
Yeah. Which is a little bit surprising that I think that she has any empathy given the David Duke shirt. That's how I'm posthumously referring to him. Yes.
Wait, is that a Charlie Kirk shirt?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Which also means that she went and got that shirt like instantly.
Yeah. I just kind of wanted to read some of the things that she's written down. Medicine stockpile, Bibles, water, protein balls, candles, basement password, ammo, debit card info, cash location, water filters. Is this stuff that she's preparing for other people?
I think
to have?
So.
At the end it says missing people, ?
I don't know.
It seems like this would be stuff that she's preparing for the people that are going to be left behind. That's interesting. I mean, I think at least she's thinking about that. Where did everyone go? Many people vanished because they believe in Jesus Christ, Son of God, and were taken to heaven. This is God's plan to save those who trust in him. You can be saved too. Believe in Jesus. Ask him. I can't read the rest of it. Read the Bible. Book John to learn more. Don't take the mark of the beast. It will separate you from God. Okay. Before we continue with the video, allow me a brief moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Aura. So recently, out of curiosity, I decided to do a quick Google search of my name, and I was absolutely shocked to find much of my personal data listed on random websites. These websites had information on my past addresses, relatives, places I used to work, and even my professional licenses that I've obtained. As someone who's extremely cautious about what I share about myself online, especially given the type of content I produce, I was quite alarmed to know that this information was so easily accessible through a quick Google search. I'm also constantly finding that my email inbox is flooded with spam and promotional emails, even from companies I've never given my email address to. Like, this is really embarrassing, but I have almost 40,000 unread emails in my inbox, most of which are just spam from random companies and websites. Guys, I've really tried to clean up my inbox and I cannot figure it out. I'm just constantly getting tons of spam and I still have like 40,000 unread emails. This is a common experience because there are these companies known as data brokers that sell your personal information, such as your email address and phone number, to other companies and marketers. What's really messed up about this is that these data brokers don't need your consent to do this, and they'll even sell your info to scammers and stalkers. You can request that they remove your info, but often they make this process so confusing and tedious that it's almost impossible. And this is where Aura comes in. Aura does the hard work for you by automatically removing your info from these websites, and they'll keep it off for good. They also offer a range of additional features as part of your sign up. If they find your phone number, email, or social security number on the dark web, they'll send you an alert immediately. They'll let you know fast if anyone tries to use this information to access your credit or bank accounts. And they provide you with $5 million in identity theft insurance should the worst happen. They also offer a bunch of other features like VPN services and antivirus software that keep you safe online, all inside one app. This is so much better than dealing with all of this on your own or by using separate software or systems. Okay, here's the best part. You can go to my link, aura.com/antibot, to try out Aura for free for 14 days. That's more than enough time for Aura to find out if your data is exposed. I hated finding out that my info was floating around out there for anyone to use. I don't want to be vulnerable to future data breaches, and if you don't want to be either, you can go to aura.com/antibot to try them out for 2 weeks free of charge. Thank you so much, Aura. Now back to the video.
Okay, guys, I think I have more Feast of Trumpets Rapture confirmation, and this may be my favorite one so far. I posted a video yesterday of 3 minor Feast of Trumpets rapture confirmations. And the first one I talked about was with my 9-year-old daughter, and how the Lord spoke something to her in a different language, and it turned out to be Rosh Chodesh, which means new moon. Now, why this was significant is because of the vision he gave her prior to that. Go watch the video before this if you want more details. I don't want to drag this video on forever. Rosh Chodesh means new moon. And Feast of Trumpets is the only feast that is centered around the new moon. And the Lord has been showing me in scripture for the last week in Amos 8 how this ties to the rapture and to the beginning of tribulation. That whole chapter is about that. And it mentions the new moon, and it mentions twice about how the Lord will be turning their feasts into mourning and lamentation and grieving. So it ties in to the rapture, the new moon feast, the Feast of Trumpets, the rapture and tribulation beginning.
How do you say child abuse in Hebrew?
Right?
Jesus Christ. I mean, you got to think that like the 9-year-old is engaging with the mom's fantasy and like comes up with some nonsense words, and they say something that sounds something like something, and then they decide that gibberish sounds enough like this to where it definitely is this, and then they find a way to make this nonsense phrase fit in with the thing that they already believe.
Yeah.
Like that's what I see going on here.
And her talking about like how in the Bible, I guess I don't remember what book she was talking about, but saying that like it referenced the new moon a lot. Well, I mean, in ancient times, a lot of festivals and just marking the year, a lot of the time centered around like the new moon or the full moon, because that was something that they could observe in the sky and everyone could see it. So it's not really that much of a surprise that in the Bible it talks about there being a new moon.
Yeah, and you know what also mentions new moon? That's the Twilight franchise. So I thought I'd draw attention to your shirt.
It says Alpha Loyal.
As I was getting my 3-year-old ready for nap, he was not wanting to take a nap. I was chasing him all over the room, trying to get him to put a pull-up on so he could lay down. And he started saying something over and over again, like he says it all the time. Let me show it to you so you can see for yourself. Hudson, hold on. Can you tell me what you were just saying?
Rosh Chodesh.
Say it again. What?
Rosh Chodesh.
Rosh Chodesh?
Yes.
Why are you saying that? Are you as baffled as I am? When this whole thing happened,
not really.
The first time where the
Sounds
Lord
like you've been
spoke
talking
to her
about
and
this
she
in
had
your house
no
a
clue
lot.
what he was saying or what it meant. He was asleep, taking a nap. And then when I recorded my video and posted it, he was taking a nap. And the irony of this is I was just watching a video sent to me by a brother.
So she's saying that it's not possible that he just overheard his sister saying it, because apparently she also said Rosh Chodesh.
Yeah.
Because he was taking a nap. Which it's like, yeah, maybe he was laying down in his bed, but do you know 100% that he was sleeping and didn't overhear anything you're saying?
Yeah.
And like, obviously you've been talking about this stuff in your house and probably have said Rosh Chodesh multiple times. Like kids, we know, we have a nephew who's 6 and he like literally repeats everything we say.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not surprising that one of your really young children is just repeating and, like, echoing things that you're talking about.
Yeah.
In Christ, of a woman who had compiled a bunch of interactions children have had with the Lord, visions and things like that. And, of course, I already share things that my kids have experienced, hearing from the Lord, visions and dreams, etc. But my 3-year-old is 3, so the things that he has experienced are few and far between. So for him to start saying this, to me, is just more confirmation, because he did not know this word. We're going home. I already was convinced, but the Lord just keeps giving little, I don't even want to call them little, these are huge. He keeps giving confirmations every single day. So get ready, guys. We're about to see Jesus face to face. Feast of Trumpets is in 20 days. We're going home.
Well, how'd that work out for you?
Yeah.
I mean, she's so confident about it happening because she says she's having all these like little confirmations. And it's just like, it seems like you just see little things here and there that are pretty arbitrary, and then you're wanting, it's confirmation bias. You're wanting to interpret it that way, and so you are interpreting it that way, even though these things really have no meaning to them.
Okay, I'm literally about to crash out. So I am super, super, super persuadable, and I've been on RaptureTok for like the past, I don't know, hour. A couple things. First of all, are we not scared? Come on. To think that if the rapture is happening, if the rapture is going to happen in a few days, but they say it's going to happen, that means I only have a few days left with my kids. Even if the rapture isn't going to happen, can you imagine? Like, what if you really did only have a few days left with your kids? Oh my gosh, I'm literally crashing out right now. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, I'm not gonna poke fun at that one because that is I see that purely as a victim of this kind of ridiculous nonsense that I'm sure some people are promoting just for the sensation and profit therein.
Yeah, I included this one because I wanted to show just how differently people are reacting to this, because you have some people who are super organized and they're pouring all of their probably anxious energy into preparing their home for people that are left behind. You have people that are super happy and just like joyful that the rapture is happening. But then you have people like this where it's obviously really negatively affecting this woman's life in a very detrimental way. And she actually made a follow-up TikTok to this where she explained that the reason that she's so upset about not seeing her babies again, because you would think, like, aren't you and your children aren't you all being raptured up to heaven and you're going to see them in heaven? But she says that at this moment she felt like she probably wouldn't be raptured because she's done too many bad things in her life. And so her kids are going to be raptured and she's going to be left here. And so she's like panicking basically about the thought of not seeing her kids again in just a few days. And I really feel for this lady. And I think it just shows you that while we can sit here and like be like, oh, this is so crazy and so ridiculous, all this rapture stuff, it really is like affecting people in a very detrimental way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you're probably wondering why September 23rd?
Yeah.
Where did this come from? And this rapture rumor actually began with a South African pastor. His name is Pastor Joshua Malakela. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But he claimed in a podcast interview from, I think, back in June, that God told him in a vision that the rapture was going to be on September 23rd or 24th. And I thought we would look at a clip from that original podcast episode.
God, prophets and podcasts. Two things that like never get you anywhere good.
He says to me, on the 23rd and the 24th of September, 2025, I will come to take my church.
There's a date.
There is a date. On the 23rd and the 24th of September,
2025.
2025.
So what happens 2026 now?
2026, what he was telling me is that by June, the world is gearing up towards the World Cup, right? But by June, they think the World Cup will happen. But after the rapture of September 2025, the chaos that would be in the world, the destruction, the devastation that would be in the world after the rapture, there will be no World Cup 2026.
So it's like
in other words, the
remember,
world,
he's coming to take his His own. So, which means the ones that are not in Christ, they are remaining.
They are remaining
but they're going to
behind.
remain in chaos, basically. That's what you're saying.
Let me finish up his message.
Oh, yes, yes.
After naming the 23rd and the 24th of September 2025 being the rapture day, he then says, then after there will be a 7 years tribulation on earth on those left behind. And then he says, on the 15th of September 2032, I will return to earth as king. So on the 23rd and the 24th of September, he said it would come, it is going to be, if you are aware, a festival of the trumpets. It's in the book of Leviticus chapter 23.
It's Old Testament.
It is celebrated over 2 days. It's the 23rd. This year is the Jewish festival.
Okay.
It will be celebrated on the 23rd and the 24th
of September.
It actually falls on one day. But because of those who needed to confirm first because they marked the day by sighting the new moon. So if they sight the new moon on the first day, so that day they celebrate the Feast of Trumpets. Or if they sight it on the second day, then the second day becomes the celebration of the Feast of Trumpets.
Okay.
So he says to me, another thing that I forgot, he says, in these 2 days, no one knows which day or hour I will come. This is what he says.
Okay.
So notice how he said September 23rd and 24th, and he associated it with the Feast of Trumpets. And he said Feast of Trumpets is always celebrated on the new moon. That's kind of how they mark when to do the feast.
Yeah.
That will be important later.
Okay.
But yeah, this is where this all came from this dude in a podcast several months ago. Not really familiar with this pastor other than he's South African. I'm not familiar with this podcast, but it is kind of like the African Girls Gone Bible.
Yeah. I mean, how many people who really believe the rapture stuff really dug into this guy and his track record, what he thinks, his reputation, all that kind of thing? I have to think that people generally haven't, because if you actually dig into whether or not the rapture is a historical Christian or biblical thing, you find that no, it's not.
Yeah, and I actually do want to jump into talking a little bit about rapture theology, because I think that that's going to put a lot of this into context, because like you said, the idea of the rapture is actually fairly recent. A lot of evangelical Christians don't realize just how recent of a theology that is. So when it comes to the rapture, there are two primary schools of thought: pre-tribulationism and post-tribulationism. And pre-tribs believe that the rapture will occur before the 7 years of tribulation that's discussed in the book of Revelation, while post-tribs obviously believe that the rapture is supposed to happen after the 7 years of tribulation. And I was curious if you were a pre-tribber or a post-tribber.
I'm sorry, I just can't get over the word
Tribber?
tribbing here, but we'll go ahead.
That's how they refer to it, is post-tribbers.
Wow, that means something different with the people I hang out with, but okay.
Yeah, in the queer community, that means something very different.
I mean, we believed that people were going to be, Christians were going to be raptured before the tribulation.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be here during the 7 years.
Was the rapture something that you guys talked about?
100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believed it was going to happen in my lifetime. I was totally sure it was going to happen in my lifetime.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. Was there anything that your family or your community believe pointed to that happening soon?
They didn't talk to me about this that much, but one thing the community did believe was basically the creation of the state of Israel in the 40s. That pointed to it. And then also the fact that we were at war, and there were rumors of wars, and there were natural disasters.
In all of history.
Hurricane Katrina was the thing that pointed us to the rapture is going to happen soon, because God's killing people out of wrath and anger, and he just can't wait for there to be a tribulation period so he can punish everyone. And like Katrina was a warning to us for like to stop being gay or something like that. Yeah. So
That's really interesting because I feel like the way that I grew up, the rapture was something that we believed in, but it was not something that we really talked about that much. And I actually didn't know that there were, I think I just assumed that the rapture was supposed to happen before the tribulation, but I was never really taught this kind of like dispensationalism stuff. Like I was not taught about that.
yeah.
So it was like things that people talked about it, but it was not really something that I ever like sat with and thought about that much for myself. And even with my family, I think that they would be like, yeah, the rapture might happen sometime in our lifetime, but probably not. Like, I feel like they were kind of more skeptical towards that.
I do find it interesting that people try to prepare for it because we believed like it was impossible to know the day or the hour, and not just within a certain date period, but no one could have any amount of knowledge whatsoever about when it was going to happen. And then also there's no point in preparing because like you can't really be much of an influence on anyone after you're gone. God and Satan are going to be the influences on people. And so to try to interfere with what's going to happen after you're gone like makes
pointless.
no sense. Yeah.
You know, now I'm thinking about it a little bit more. It is kind of interesting that the rapture wasn't something that was really emphasized because we lived in the mission community. In my last video, we talked about how in the mission community, there was this idea that as soon as we like brought the gospel to the ends of the earth, and Papua, Indonesia was considered to be the ends of the earth because it's like one of the only places left with actual uncontacted tribes. But they believed that once that had happened, that the end of the world was going to happen. And the gospel has been brought to Papua for like 100 years now.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are some, I think, uncontacted tribes still there, but like most of them have heard about the gospel, and the island is like 50% Christian, 50% Muslim. So it's interesting that like there wasn't more of an emphasis on that, or there wasn't this idea that like the rapture is like gonna happen like in the next couple of years because we've almost completed our mission. But it was a lot more like wishy-washy.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's surprising given how much you guys organized to bring about the end of the world that you weren't talking about the end of the world as much as I was sitting in the little suburb of Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah. And I think that that was a little bit more unique to my specific family, and maybe not so much the mission community at large, because Christianity within my family was a lot more wishy-washy, which in a way is kind of good because I feel like we didn't have more, I guess, extremist views that maybe your family had.
Yeah.
But when it came to deconstructing my faith, I think that actually kind of presented a challenge because I feel like there wasn't ever anything for me to really like tackle or grapple with because everything was so fluid, versus for you, it's like if you learn about, you know, the fact that the earth isn't 6,000 years old, then that kind of topples everything else in your mind a little bit, or it gets you thinking about that. Versus like with my family, they weren't exactly like, they didn't exactly believe in evolution, but they also didn't really believe that the earth was only 6,000 years old. So it's like learning about evolution wouldn't have been necessarily a challenge to my faith.
Right.
Which is probably how it should be, but also it kind of makes it hard to like address like what really did I believe, because things were constantly moving around, if that makes sense. Okay, so we talked about how our concept of the rapture is kind of a new thing, which isn't exactly true. And I recently watched a Religion for Breakfast video about this, so that's why I'm kind of up to speed on rapture theology. But there were some ideas about a pre-tribulation rapture prior to, I think his name's James Darby, who was like the father of dispensationalism. There were some ideas about that, but they weren't necessarily as widespread or popular. So in the 1800s, a man named James Nelson Darby popularized the concept of dispensations, which posits that history is divided into distinct stages during which God interacts with his people in varying ways. Part of dispensationalism is the assertion that we're currently in the age of the church, which will culminate in the rapture before 7 years of tribulation. Darby's ideas were very popular in the US, even though he was actually British. And dispensationalism was further spread through the popularity of the Scofield Reference Bible, books like The Late Great Planet Earth, and Tim LaHaye's series Left Behind.
Yeah.
According to scholars, ideas about the rapture have become so commonplace among evangelical Christians, primarily due to popular media and not necessarily theology. I think a lot of evangelical Christians were introduced to the rapture because of like the Left Behind series. I think that left way more of an impression on them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's like the main way that I heard about the rapture was like Left Behind.
Yeah. I think that a lot of that kind of rapture media, it was a way to make consequences for earthly actions feel even more immediate than describing hell, this other place that exists, in another dimension. Like saying something bad's going to happen here, but also it's going to be this superlative, at the same time, was a way to scare people even more. And I mean, that would be my guess for why it ended up getting popular, because it's a story that provokes a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And that's basically what evangelicalism thrives on. And so once they had that new bit of narrative, like, it took off.
Right. And the book, The Late Great Planet Earth, actually attached some of like the biblical prophecy, or what people interpreted as biblical prophecy, and wasn't necessarily like supposed to be prophetic for the 2000s. But that book attached prophecy to actual events that were happening like within the last couple decades. And I think that also kind of sparks the same type of fear in people, because they can see it more tangibly rather than it being kind of this fluid thing that they sort of like know about, but they can't really put into a picture in their mind, if that makes sense. So now that their end time prophecy has failed, let's take a look at how these Christian TikTokers are responding to everything.
Let's.
And similarly, these videos kind of run the gamut. I'm only going to show 2 different videos because a lot of the like rapture apology videos are like super long for some reason. So I'm just going to show 2.
Do y'all want to know something? I am glad that there are so many mockers and scoffers, because God is doing a few things with this right now. First and foremost, he is bringing awareness to this event for people who would have otherwise never known what it was. People are opening their Bibles. They are reading Bible verses for the first time because they are looking up what the rapture even is. He is planting seeds. So whenever this event does happen, he will hopefully in that moment bring them to surrender. Secondly, y'all are fulfilling scripture. So I want to personally thank you, because I get to sit back and watch the Bible be fulfilled. Y'all, God told us this would happen. He said in 2 Peter 3 verses 3 and 4 that in the last days scoffers will come, scoffing and following their own evil desires, saying, where is this coming that he promised? I also want to point out that this verse directly points to a pre-tribulation rapture, because the Bible clearly tells us that the second coming of Jesus Christ, the physical return to this earth, every eye will see him. There will be no doubters. There will be no mockers. There will be no scoffers at the physical return of Jesus Christ. So what coming are they referencing?
Just want to pause it here so we can address some of what she said. In terms of the mocking and scoffing thing, I don't think that people are really mocking these Christians because they believe in the rapture, because a lot of evangelical Christians do believe in the rapture. I have family members that believe in the rapture, and I'm not mocking or scoffing them. People might be mocking and scoffing you because you put a specific date to it, and then that day came and went and nothing happened.
Yeah, and now you're like coping by saying that you're actually even more right, even though you're wrong.
And they're completely reframing everything, because originally they were like, the rapture is for sure 100% gonna happen this day, and now that hasn't happened, now they're saying, oh well, that actually was just like God testing you, and the point of it was to plant seeds and get people thinking about the rapture, because apparently up until now people didn't really know about it, which I'm pretty sure most people kind of know what the rapture is, even if they don't know like the exact details about it. They know what the word rapture means.
Yeah.
I think is happening is God is exposing people, and this is multifaceted. I think there's a couple different levels. I think in the pre-tribulation camp, he is exposing where people's hearts are, where people's faith truly is. Is your faith truly in Christ, or is it in an event? And then he's exposing the lukewarm Christians. I don't think I have to elaborate on that. And then he's also exposing the truly saved, those who are putting a smile on Satan's face right now. Those who are saved, but they are...
Okay, so if you were a Christian that was like, oh, I don't think that this is actually really going to happen in the way that they're saying, which is the majority of Christians, then you're actually making Satan happy and you're working for the devil now. Like, okay, provide some kind of like evidence for this, because like we have hard evidence that you were wrong.
Right.
That's all we have. Like, and then you're making up a story to go on top of it rather than just like actually dealing with the fact that the evidence says you were wrong about something you were really passionate about.
Well, even the Bible says nobody will know the day or the hour. So, I mean, even if you want to put evidence aside, if you're just referencing your holy scripture, it tells you that you probably shouldn't be making guesses as to the exact date. I mean, why not go by that?
I've seen people like, Gabriel Storm, friend of the channel, saying things about how if you are predicting, the end times, then you're not really a real Christian and you're making, putting a smile on Satan's face. And so a takeaway for me is that it doesn't really matter kind of what actually happens in reality, is that the people who have this like charismatic belief system will just say, no matter what happens, you are supremely evil and I am supremely good and superior to you.
Yeah.
Because like that's what they ultimately want to believe. So they
reframe it.
Yeah, they reframe everything as being evidence of that.
Yeah.
They are doing that by commenting the most vile things, the most disgusting things, and sad to say, but this is the truth. I am seeing more atrocious and disgusting behavior from the church than the world. And that says a lot.
Now, we're right there with you on that, actually. Yeah, that's...
But maybe for very different reasons.
Yeah.
Some of y'all are putting a smile on Satan's face. Some of y'all have Satan applauding you. Now, I have a lot of brothers and sisters. I have a lot of comments coming my way saying, hey, you need to address the elephant in the room. You need to repent. You need to apologize. Y'all, I have nothing to apologize for because I never set a date. I never once said, I believe that Jesus will return on this specific day. I said that it was possible he could fulfill the Feast of Trumpets by returning for his bride because it is a feast he has yet to fulfill. I used words like could. It was possible. We need to be watchful. They are all accurate and still apply. If you did think that I said a date, then I want to gently remind you how important active listening is. When we are watching videos, we have to be actively listening so we don't just hear what we want to hear.
Okay, but when you use, like, there's this thing called insinuation. And I think that that's perfectly reasonable for people to believe that you're strongly insinuating that certain things are going to happen when you say, like, oh, it's possible and we need to be preparing and we need to be watchful. That seems to indicate to people that that's what you think is going to happen without you saying it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, even the caption of this video is, keep your eyes on Christ who is returning soon for his bride. Nothing has changed, church family. The wrath of God is still coming. The 7-year tribulation is at the door. Judgment is still coming. Continue to stand firm in the truth. Be bold in Jesus. I mean, that still implies that you think that it's going to happen really, really soon, regardless of how many times people are wrong about it being soon.
Yeah.
Including over the last 2,000 years.
Yeah. It's like what she's doing is just turning around this entire thing on her viewers and saying it's their fault that they didn't understand exactly what I wanted them to understand. When it's like, clearly you're trying to push this idea that something is about to happen really, really soon.
Yeah.
You can't get mad at your followers for just like picking up what you're putting down, even if you're not using those exact words.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that if you're saying like this actually is something to take seriously, it could legitimately be this. And then it turns out to be wrong. And you just double down rather than saying, well, I shouldn't have said that, this was a strong possibility even. Like if you are coping in this way, I just see what you're doing as being inherently dishonest and like kind of narcissistic, honestly.
For real. Okay, so this next one that we're going to watch, it is a bit long, and I'm probably going to splice it up a little bit. He tends to repeat himself and say the same thing over and over again. I just want you guys to know we're not showing the full thing. You can go to TikTok and watch the full thing if you want the full context, but trust me that I'm not like splicing them up to like take them out of context or something.
Alrighty, folks. The rapture didn't happen like I said it would, and I promised that when it didn't happen, by the time that I said it would, that I would upload a video of me publicly apologizing and repenting of my failed prediction. And I want to acknowledge that it wasn't me saying it might happen. No, I was like fully convinced and repeatedly said in all of my videos that a rapture would happen sometime on September 23rd or the 24th or across both dates because of time zones, and maybe even cross into the 25th. At time of recording this, it's 9:45 a.m., the 25th of September. The rapture hasn't happened. I was convinced. I was seeing many convincing signs in the form of license plates and truck signs and other signs, and just the testimonies of other people just sounding very convincing. I mean, you should hear some of these testimonies. They were like, even some of the signs that I was getting, very compelling and very convincing. The timing of it all, it was just all of it, all the evidence, everything, the maths, it looked like it was all pointing to the rapture happening finally. So I want to publicly, apologize to everyone that I convinced to get their hopes up high about the rapture happening September 23rd and 24th, and obviously it didn't happen, and there must be people out there very disappointed and very hurting to have had their hopes up so high, and for it to come and go. Unfortunately, this is the nature of watching for the rapture. This does happen often. I'm not excusing myself from being wrong, spreading information about something that didn't end up happening.
I mean, if it's the nature of watching for the rapture that you make promises, you do big things in your life, you see signs, and then you turn out to be wrong. If that's the nature of it, shouldn't that tell you that watching for it in the first place is fraught, is pointless, is wrong?
Wouldn't that make it not prophecy? What's the point of prophecy if you can't predict things in the future? Isn't that the entire point?
Yeah.
But I do like at least this guy is taking accountability and saying,
yeah,
I was wrong and I'm sorry that if this hurt anybody who had their hopes up.
Yeah.
I really can appreciate that. But we'll keep watching.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Great.
I really do love God. I love Jesus. And I want to be in heaven with God because, the Bible says that God is our Father in heaven, and we can have a relationship with God. And why wouldn't you want to be where God is? And my heart's sincere. I really do love Jesus, and I really do look forward to when the rapture does happen. Even if the state has come and gone, I still believe it will happen. I just don't know anymore when it will happen, and I'm not going to speculate anymore. I'm never going to talk about the rapture. I'm just going to look forward to it happening. I'll watch in my own private time, but I won't talk about it publicly. I just know that I can be really impulsive with stuff like this. I live on the extremes, when it comes to life. I'm not really a moderate kind of guy. I kind of just, once I've grabbed a hold of something, I kind of just go with it until I see it through, whether it comes to pass or not, or whether that thing is fruitful or not. So that's just how I live my life. And so I sought to do the same with this. It's one of the ways that I test if something is true or not. I just give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, well, it doesn't work out. You kind of just readjust it and you go on. I did not want to be famous on the internet, but my face is plastered all over the internet because of this one viral video of me just having sold my car. And I never intended for that video to become famous on TikTok. And now it's all over YouTube, probably Instagram as well. Not ideal. I was hoping that would just be a thing between me and my Rapture watcher friends. Honestly, I just didn't expect it to blow up like the way that it did.
So yeah, this guy sold his car because he thought that the rapture was going to happen. And he's saying that he knows that he's kind of an impulsive person and tends to go with these extreme emotional things, which I can appreciate, and I'm happy that he recognizes that about himself, because I think recognizing that and being able to self-reflect is super helpful.
Yeah.
But I would encourage him to maybe analyze that and figure out if that's something that he wants to, like, if that's how he wants to continue navigating his life.
Yeah.
Because I don't think going with every one of your impulses and just going with it and like seeing if it's fruitful or if it works out, I don't think that that's going to be the best way to go about your life. I
Yeah.
think that you should probably be a little bit more thoughtful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, trying out a life philosophy in practical ways can be a good thing. And sometimes like the rational skeptic guys like refuse that kind of practice, which I think can be a problem in itself. But like maybe before you jump onto a train, it's a good idea to like actually try to determine whether or not it's really true or not. Like that is a useful practice, as well as trying to practice a life philosophy in a practical sense in a way that's supposed to make your life better. Like both of those things are important. And if you are only doing the practice thing, then like you're just going to fall for every single scam that ever comes out. That's really sad.
I wonder how many MLMs this guy has joined.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, like we talk about on our channel all the time, life really is about balance. And I think that there is a place for spontaneity and an impulsiveness, like kind of safe impulsiveness. There's a place for that. But I think that also needs to be balanced out with thinking ahead and doing some pre-planning, which it seems like this guy really isn't doing.
Yeah.
But from the way he's talking about it, this seems like this might have been an experience that might get him to think about that and like reanalyze that a little bit for himself.
You would think that being so profoundly wrong about a conviction that he held deeply would make him question his other convictions, which he holds deeply, like believing in Jesus. I think that's something that he should probably also do.
Okay, another thing I wanted to know is that a lot of Rapture TikTokers that were really gung-ho about it happening on the 23rd have actually deleted or privated their accounts, or they've simply just gone to posting regular content as though nothing has ever happened.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of ignoring it. I do want to circle back to Pastor Joshua, the pastor who originally predicted the 23rd rapture.
Yeah.
He actually just as one day ago, I actually watched this video like an hour after it went live. He went back on that podcast to address the fact that, clearly we're all still here and nobody was raptured.
Okay.
And let's just watch.
Oh, great.
To give you guys a flavor of what we're about to watch, this video is titled Unexpected Response from Mr. Joshua on Rapture Failure. Rapture is still happening. Why I'm not sorry.
So I want to repeat something to people today, because people think that I will change my stance.
Mm-hmm.
The date that I have given people, it is the final one. You might be confused for now.
Yeah.
I'll explain to you.
Okay. Yeah.
It is the final date. No one else in the whole world will be able or will come with another prophecy for the rapture date. Mine is the final one. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's the first clip?
What?
Yep. As we continue watching, he'll explain.
Okay. I mean, but yours wasn't a prophecy. It was wrong. You were talking out of your ass on a podcast.
Well, you'll see. Context to this clip we're about to watch. Pastor Joshua recounts a conversation he had with God on the night of the 24th after the rapture didn't happen. So he's talking about a conversation with God.
We have a lot of reason to believe him this really happened.
Right?
I asked God this question. God, what's happening? And I'm not angry, by the way. Because I know when he speaks, it's final. So I said to him, you came to me, I saw you face to face. You gave me your word. And you asked me to tell the world, and I told them. Why the 2 days passed, and there was no rapture? No answer. Quiet. Silence. And I went to sleep. Then there, early morning, early, maybe, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up. I'm surprised when I wake up. Remember I said, we know in part, and then after we know in full. Remember, the nature of prophecy. So when I wake up, I'm surprised. Why am I waking up in my bed? And then, okay, now I'm sitting. And then I'm talking to God while I'm lying on my back. And then he says to me, remember when I went to sleep, I asked him a question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he brings the answer. And then he says to me, days from now, literal days, not months, days from now, I'm going to come to Rapture the church.
Are you setting another date?
You have to listen to me.
Days.
Okay, leave the flow, right? Leave the flow.
Listen, there was no amount of days, just days.
Leave the flow. The flow.
Processing.
So, and then he says, I guess that's why Jesus says, remove the stone. You know. He asked them, have I not told you? If you believe you'll see the glory of God, remove the stone. You know. So you can see the miracle. And then you see, now I even lost my thought. That's why I'm saying, don't disturb the flow. I'll give you a chance. Don't worry.
Sorry, we're also just processing.
No, it's fine.
So,
it's fine.
yeah.
It's fine. Don't worry.
I wanted to let that whole clip play to show how he tends to get upset if people interrupt him.
Yeah.
I guess because he loses his train of thought. But like, I've watched this whole thing and the dude just goes on and he says the same thing over and over again. It's like, okay, sometimes people are going to interrupt you, dude. Like, that's just going to happen. And especially when you just said, God told me in literal days from now, the rapture is going to happen.
Yeah.
Of course, people are going to be like, so you're setting a date? Like, she's just questioning you because what you said is crazy.
Yeah.
But I take it he's not a guy that likes to be questioned.
Well, no, I mean, that's why he's a Christian prophet.
Okay, just so we're all up to speed, Pastor Joshua is saying he wasn't wrong. And God spoke to him and said, the rapture is actually going to happen in a few days from now. A little bit of context for this next clip. On the morning of the 25th, so this was the next day after this happened, Joshua claims to have received a call from a friend who explained to him that we use the Gregorian calendar, but back in biblical times, they would have used the Julian calendar.
Did the month of September, like the word September that Jesus spoke to him directly, was that a word back in the Julian calendar days or not? Like, genuinely, I don't know.
So this man goes there to the Julian calendar, the one that, you know, if we talk about the seven feasts, the Passover when our Lord was crucified, they were using the Julian calendar then.
Okay.
So the man goes, and I'll paraphrase because he will teach you very well more than me. He goes there to see the date of the Feast of Trumpets. Guess what? It is the 23rd and the 24th of September, 2025. The Feast of Trumpets. The difference is this, because they say that calendar is behind by 13 days. So if you want to come over to our current one,
October,
you have to add 13 days. So when you transfer, like when you come over to our calendar straight from the 23rd and the 24th of September 2025 in the Julian calendar, it takes you to the 7th of October. You know, some say the 7th and the 8th, 7th and the 8th of October. And according to this man in this video, the 7th and the 8th of October is the real Feast of Trumpets. He will explain to you further. Yeah? So, but in that Julian calendar, the Feast of Trumpets is on the 23rd and the 24th of September. That's why I said earlier, when you said you got confused, I'm 1,000,000,000% sure that the rapture is going to happen on the 23rd and the 24th of September 2025. But when you cross over straight from this Feast of Trumpets to our Gregorian calendar, it will put you on the 7th and the 8th of October. Now listen, to me who was asking God, where's your part? I did my part. I delivered the message. Why you didn't rapture the people? And then he said, days from now, I will rapture my church. So the video of this man, remember, this I'm seeing this video in the morning.
So it was a confirmation to you that...
It is a confirmation to me in details In more details, let me say,
Okay.
because
Didn't have, yeah.
when God said to me, He didn't give me a date. When God said to me, in days I will rapture the church, I didn't understand. I even asked him questions because we just passed the Feast of Trumpets. But the way God used this man,
Sure.
it clicked to me.
I even have a headache. Sorry.
The details this man is presenting are now coming together in my mind, making sense when God said to me in the morning, in days from now, I will rapture my church.
Yep. So in his original vision that he was sent from God, I guess God was using the Julian calendar by
Naturally.
mistake
Yeah,
instead
that's
of our
standard in
Gregorian
heaven.
one that we
Yeah.
now use.
Right.
Yeah. So in case you guys didn't understand that, this guy is saying that because the Julian calendar, the Feast of Trumpets occurs on September 23rd and 24th, but now we use the Gregorian calendar, and the Julian calendar is like 13 days behind our current calendar, that actually, God wasn't wrong when he said it was going to happen during the Feast of Trumpets, because the Feast of Trumpets is still coming up. It's going to be October 7th through the 8th.
Yeah.
But that actually doesn't make any sense, and I'm going to explain why.
Okay.
I want to read what I wrote down. This doesn't actually make sense because the timing of this feast is based on the Hebrew calendar, which is tracked by the phases of the moon. Rosh Hashanah, which is also the Feast of Trumpets, it's also known as the Feast of Trumpets, always occurs when the new moon appears closest to the autumn equinox. And Pastor Joshua even explained this himself in his original prediction, because you remember he said Rosh Hashanah happens at the new moon. Ancient peoples wouldn't have celebrated based on the Julian calendar, but by the phases of the moon. Back then, they probably wouldn't have kept track of what exact date it was. Everything was by the lunar and solar, everything was tracked by that. On October 7th and 8th, there's going to be a full supermoon, and these dates fall in the Jewish festival of Sukkot. I'm not exactly sure how to say that, which always occurs when the moon is at its zenith. So why would God tell this pastor that the rapture was going to happen during Rosh Hashanah, during the new moon, if he actually meant it was going to happen on Sukkot? That doesn't make any sense, right? Because the whole point is that it's supposed to happen on the Feast of Trumpets, but the Feast of Trumpets is always on the new moon.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense. And the Hebrew calendar has been adjusted. They do leap years and a bunch of other stuff so that the festivals happen when they're supposed to happen. Because if they just went by our current calendar, all of them would shift around, just kind of how in Islam, a lot of the festivals will move throughout the year because they just stick to the calendar. If they did that, then Rosh Hashanah would happen in December or something, because it moves. So it has to do with the moon. So that doesn't make any sense, right?
I mean, I just think that what this guy should have done is learn something from the Jehovah's Witnesses and said, it did happen, but all the true Christians were raptured except for me. There were so few people that were raptured, obviously. You probably don't even know anyone who was raptured. But this child went missing on such and such day. And so, no, I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses actually said something more like, oh, it did happen, but it happened in a spiritual, non-corporeal way. And so, yeah, this is, God really did come down and establish his kingdom on earth. And that actually gives us more authority. This guy, I think, set himself up for even more failure.
Yeah.
I think he's playing a short-term strategy rather than a long-term strategy.
Yeah.
He's I'm assuming he's completely cynical. If he's not, he's certifiable. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because October 7th is coming up real soon, and, obviously the rapture's not going to happen. What is he going to say then? Oh, well, it's supposed to be next year?
Well, actually, because of the advent of daylight savings time, things got really, the wires got really crossed, and Jesus is waiting until the U.S. abolishes daylight savings and other parts of the world, in order for everyone to be lined up so that we can all get raptured at the same time, because right now everything's just it's too confusing for him to put it in his schedule.
It's like, why would God make it so confusing? Like, why would God care? Like, if God is actually speaking to you, he's God. Isn't he going to tell you the date and like put it in terms that you would understand?
I like how there's just like a conversion error, basically.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you know, the throne is going to be this big. And they're like, hey, the throne's going to be this big. And then God's like, whoa, no, I was talking in metric. You don't convert it to imperial. Yeah.
I want to wrap this up by talking about a thought I had about this whole rapture talk thing. And I'm going to read what I wrote down because I want to make sure that I get it right. While there were definitely some Christian creators promoting the idea that the rapture is imminent, it honestly seems to me that the reaction to rapture talk, and especially satire about rapture talk, far outweighed the trend itself. Hundreds of creators racked up millions of views satirizing the trend, while from what I could find, there were really only a handful of creators who truly believed that the rapture was happening soon. Seriously, if you go to TikTok and you search rapture talk, you're going to just get people satirizing it or just talking about it, but like obviously they don't actually believe that it was going to happen. Finding people who sincerely believed in the rapture, there's like maybe like 5 to 10 creators who are like actively pushing it.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of talk about mass religious psychosis and reference to rapture talk. And while we should be concerned for those whose beliefs about the rapture are impeding them from living a full life, I don't actually think it's the case that there's some mass religious psychosis going on. Many of the creators who were adamant that the rapture was happening a few days ago have actually been making such claims on TikTok for a very long time. I think it's valid to have concerns about rapture hysteria, especially in light of the rise of Christian nationalism and Christian Zionism. However, in regards to rapture rumors on TikTok, I think people are actually mostly seeing the mass reaction to rapture talk rather than rapture talk itself.
Yeah.
And I'm actually more concerned that we might be manufacturing this rapture craze or like mass hysteria ourselves because we're kind of drumming up this idea that a ton of people believe the rapture was going to happen a few days ago when really it was just a few creators that have made these kind of claims for a long time. Like there were creators that just last year around Rosh Hashanah were also saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So I just don't really think it's the case that like this is a new phenomenon that we've never seen before. I think we might just be seeing a lot of people reacting to it.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, when it comes to religion, this seems to be business as usual. Nothing I heard was really that much more absurd or different than what I grew up with. There were just some tweaks here and there.
I think the only difference is that just with the advent of social media and especially TikTok, I think we're seeing a lot of these things through our phone from people that we'd never otherwise interact with.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a difference. But in terms of there being like some mass psychosis, I just don't really think that that's happening.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that a lot of people like to use, you know, terms like mass psychosis and things like that in order to describe religious phenomenology. And that has a fundamentally othering kind of connotation.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think that this is psychologically really any different than any kind of religious practice or supernaturalist belief. Even the people who you think are wild and crazy for thinking the world's about to end are not any less human or significantly different than you in practicing some kind of like supernaturalistic belief or whatever.
Yeah, and the term religious psychosis has become a little bit popular, it seems like recently, and I do kind of have an issue with that just because it seems what people are describing as religious psychosis are just like having any type of religious belief at all. And like psychosis has an actual meaning in like clinical settings. And I don't think that we should overuse that term.
Yeah.
Like I get the desire to, and then maybe because a lot of times actual medical psychosis comes along with religious hallucinations or like delusions.
Yeah.
That is a thing, but I think that people are maybe overusing that term to the point where it's like, well, what are we really talking about?
Yeah.
Just like how people use the word cult, which I just talked about in my last video and called the mission community I grew up in a cult, but I think I did it in kind of like more nuanced terms. But
I think it's better to say this is religion and they are wrong than to make up like a word that carries a medicalizing connotation to it to describe people.
Agreed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and a huge thank you to my patrons who helped make this video possible. If you like this video, please be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you'd like to follow me on social media, he's really grumpy. My Instagram is Taylor_the_Antibot. And if you'd like to donate to this channel financially, a link to my Patreon will be down in the description, and we'll see you on the next one. Say bye, Mr. Grumbus.